Yes, hello to you all once again, and welcome back to the latest episode of Classic Dirt Bike TV. And in this featured video, we're just going to dive straight in and take a look at Trevor Calderwood's very nice 400 CZ. Okay, thanks for rejoining me once again, and from my last video posting looking at that quite rare Hondaberg machine, we're back to another vintage classic as we take a look at this nicely tricked up CZ 400 belonging to Irishman Trevor Calderwood. Now, as you've already guessed, this bike is not an original Czechoslovakian vintage racer, although the frame and the motor are based around a 1969 design. Now, this featured bike is just one of the many nice classics and Twinshock race bikes that Trevor has in his collection, and Trevor's maybe another collector that we need to keep our radar on, as he has some cracking old school race bikes in his workshop, so it may be worth Classic Dirt Bike TV paying Trevor a little visit in the future to film and catalogue a few of his machines. And so as we begin with the bike's frame, which is actually a reproduction chassis of the CZ 1969 design, and this particular frame here was all engineered and put together by the legendary frame builder Miroslav Hajek, who originally built this bike in 2013 for superstar Belgian rider Danny Seals, who took this bike to a European Championship win in 2014 in the 35 plus rider category. So straight away we have a bike here with some racing history and certainly some prestige as well. And you can see that evidence here on this steel swing arm of Miroslav's handiwork, which is signed, and of course that billet alloy chain guide and this combined rear brake anchor bracket has the rider's name and its year of manufacture punched into it. Now, as we move on to the bike's engine, which is a 1969 360 that, as you can see, is not your stock CZ 360 motor, as this engine's had quite a few upgrades to it internally to make it into a long stroking 403cc unit. And since this video was actually made, Trevor tells me that there's been further improvements on the CZ engine since then. Now, once more you can see a modern style Japanese Mikuni carburetor is used to feed that 400 two-stroke motor with its fuel, and this of course replaced those very troublesome Jikov carburetors that would have been fitted to these engines back in the day, because those old Jikovs certainly did have a reputation for leaking and flooding. Now again, Trevor's 400 motor here hasn't had the updated modern style gear shifter modification done on this engine, which is basically a brand new linkage system and new casing, which then takes away the long throw that's normally associated with these CZ engines, and this featured motor here still has its stock 69 gear shifter fitted. But it is quite rare to see one of these modern style CZs without that gearbox modification. Now, as you know, many of these modern day CZ motors tend to go down the upgrade route by having every second cooling fin removed from the motor's cylinder. And again, as you can see here, this hasn't been done on our particular motor, as it's still in its stock condition. But for me personally, I think these cylinders should just be left as is, because other than shedding a few precious grams of weight from the motor, I don't really see much in the way of how it improves the actual running of the engine. But one of the other nicer upgrades on Trevor's CZ is this very nice custom-made alloy airbox, which has a twin air foam filter inside. And this nicely crafted alloy unit will replace, of course, what would have been a plastic or GRP manufactured unit back in 1969. And so as we move on to the motor's exhaust system, now this once more is a custom-made upgrade on the stock 1969 pipe. Now this particular pipe here is made by FIM in the Czech Republic, and these pipes once again are top quality and are more or less just a straight bolt-on replacement for the original CZ item. And FIM do make all manner of exhaust systems for other makes and models of machines. Now once more, these very high quality fork yokes or triple clamps are another very nice product that's been manufactured again in the Czech Republic, and these parts are all machined from a single block of billet aluminium, and in this case here they also come complete with a very nice set of alloy bar risers as well. Now as we get to the forks on our machine, now these are a pair of 35mm forks, although all of the internals in these units have been substituted for parts that have been taken from a set of Italian made Marzoccis. Now again, the bike's front and rear brake hubs are just your stock CZ items, and these of course are your old school drum brake systems, which I suppose for 1969 were pretty good as these old drum brake setups go, but then again this was the motorcycle stopping technology of its time. But once again, it was an older drum brake that we had on the rear of our CZ Twinshocker. Now again, both of these alloy wheels on this bike were custom made by a company called Han in the Netherlands, and these were all laced onto these CZ brake hubs with heavy duty stainless steel spokes, although as you're no doubt already aware that when it comes to black wheels on an older Twinshock bike, then I'm certainly not a fan. Now as we move to the rear of the bike, more engineering from the Netherlands here in these Dutch-made Riger shocks, and as far as I'm aware these are pretty good suspension units, because I do know a few riders myself who use these Riger rear shocks, and again these shocks do have a bit of scope for some minor tuning, and as far as I know they are all fully rebuildable with regards any further adjustments or other types of maintenance. Now also on this CZ frame, it does have multiple fixing points on both the bottom and here at the shock top mounting, so you can adjust the shock angle to either raise or lower the bike's rear end. Now once more, and as far as I'm aware, that this bike's fuel tank is an alloy unit and almost certainly a stock CZ item, although I'm not entirely sure if this is actually a standard CZ item from 1969, although it could even be a fuel cell from a different model, but either way it certainly looks the part fitted here on Trevor's machine. Now as we move on to this very comfortable looking seat on Trevor's 400 CZ, now I'm sure that this is a stock CZ seat base and foam, and I'm also pretty sure that this lovely black and red themed cover is another custom made part just to fit in with that red theme of the bike. And as per all of the other parts fitted onto this Twinshocker, it's another top quality product. And so as we move on to the business end of Trevor's machine, now the front brake lever is again a very top quality Zeta part with its associated adjuster as well. Although the clutch side appears to have a different Magura lever and cover fitted onto it, and both of these levers are bolted on to a pair of modern style Renthal handlebars. Now, although despite the bike not being a fully authentic 1969 CZ racer, it's still a cracking looking little Twinshock racer, even although there are very few stock parts actually fitted onto it. But this just goes to show you the vast range of upgrades and replacement parts that you can now buy for these old Czechoslovakian dirt bikes, because there is a huge market of upgrades and replacement parts now for these bikes, and most, it has to be said, do come from the Czech Republic, and it's because of that vast array of spares and other upgraded bits and pieces for these old CZ. That's exactly why they make such an excellent choice as a vintage Twinshock racer. And for me, personally speaking, I quite like this version of an older CZ, although I must say if I did own this particular bike, I would have to ditch those black wheels. And so there you have it, another nice Twinshock racer from the Trevor Calderwood collection. That's just one of the many bikes that Trevor has at home in Northern Ireland. Now, coming up in my next video posting, we're going to take a look at this old Greaves race bike that I spotted at the recent Telford Classic Dirt Bike Show, and this is the late great Brian Badger Goss's old race bike from the 1960s. So we'll all take a look at this very nice piece of motocross history when we all return once again to your number one and favourite classic dirt bike TV channel.